Welcome back to Halftime here on Brew Sports. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And I am Tanner Burke.
All right, Tanner Burke. Small technical difficulty. One of our producers decided to push too many buttons at one time, and it freaked everything out. But it's all good.
It happens.
Sometimes
there's one button that says do not push.
You rise to that occasion, and you put the field goal wide left, or you put the field goal wide right, or you throw the interception on the goal line.
I'm not sure if that's a stab at my Buffalo
Some
sports
people
fanhood, but
just, they can't handle the pressure, and it's okay. But we love everybody that's involved with Brew Sports.
We do. We absolutely do.
So we were talking about NFL free agency before things took place. We were about to dive into Adrian Peterson, and we were having this conversation back and forth. If you're Adrian Peterson, what do you want to do? Do you want to try to restructure your contract with the Vikings? Do you want to try to figure out what team you can go play for? You want to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to the Dolphins. You're not going to Cleveland. You're not going to Baltimore. So if you had to come up with maybe 2 or 3 legitimate locations that Adrian Peterson could potentially win a Super Bowl this season, where do you go if you're Adrian Peterson?
If I'm Adrian Peterson, I'm looking right at the top, and I don't think he's concerned about taking a lot of money at this point. He's towards the end of his career. He's 31 years old. I mean, we all know the age for running backs.
It's a miracle he's lasted this long.
It is, and he really is an inspiration. But he's looking at the teams at the top. So those teams are going to be, players for the Super Bowl, and that's obviously New England. They're going to be looking for somebody to complement LeGarrette Blount if they keep him, and then. Also, we're looking at teams like Green Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta is looking for something to come back and get over the hump. It's going to be very hard for them to get back to another Super Bowl.
Do they need a running back, though? Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman were exceptional, I thought.
They're phenomenal. They're phenomenal. But, Adrian Peterson, he's a talent on the field. He's a great guy to have in the locker room. And he's not gonna ask for a lot of money. He's not gonna get paid.
He knows that he's not gonna get a lot of money either, though, too, which I think is the big thing.
But I would love for this to happen, and there's a lot of fans out there that wouldn't like this. Like we were talking about before, I would love to see him go to the Packers. I think Adrian Peterson coming over from Minnesota could be a great compliment to Eddie Lacy, and if they keep Eddie Lacy, but. He's, a lot of Packers fans might not like that very much since he's...
I don't understand why they wouldn't. You have the opportunity to arguably get one of the best running backs to ever play the game for at least another 3 or 4 years. Who's to say he doesn't just break out and have one of those 1,200-plus yard rushing seasons where he scores 15 touchdowns on the ground and he takes pressure off of Aaron Rodgers in the offense? That's what you want, don't you, Green Bay? Eddie Lacy hasn't done that.
No, he's
spent more time, playing video games and just getting hurt.
No, it's going to be interesting moving forward, but Packers fans, I think, even for the fans that would be kind of sour about it at first, it really comes down to that sibling rivalry. I hate the Jets, but we both hate the Patriots. You know what I mean? So I don't think they would be too sour about it for too long, especially like I said before, once he scores his first touchdown as a Green Bay Packer.
And I'd agree with you on that one. Do you feel like people? Just like you said, it's that sibling rivalry. Like, and I know everybody's different, and I think that's what makes the sports world great, of course, but if I have the opportunity to get my enemy or my worst opponent's best player or one of their best players, why would you not want that? It's like the whole Kevin Durant thing in Oklahoma City as well, too. I mean, sure, the Vikings fans might be mad about that, but be more mad at the organization. This isn't Adrian Peterson asking to be traded. This isn't, this is Minnesota saying, we don't want you.
No, and it's ironic because Adrian Peterson wanted to stay with Minnesota. His dad even came out at one point and said the best thing to do for Adrian Peterson would be to let him retire as a Minnesota Viking and give him that privilege, because it really has been, I'm sure, for him an honor to be with that organization for so long. And I mean, he really does sum up the entire organization as a whole. So it's going to be hard to look at him in a different uniform.
Agreed.
But as we all know, teams move on. Eventually Tom Brady will leave. Eventually Aaron Rodgers will leave, and they'll have to find a way to move on and find a better player. And if they're not done with their career at that point, they may play under a different uniform. So we'll see what happens with that moving forward.
What do you make of the whole Jamal Charles thing? He obviously has failed some of his physicals recently with the Chiefs, and he's just been very injury-riddled the last couple of years. Is he done? Does he have it? Where is he? I mean, when healthy, he's incredible. And I know that's the cliche thing to say, when he's healthy.
Especially as a running back.
When this team is healthy, when this team is performing in all cylinders, well, of course. But you're getting damaged goods if you're getting Jamal Charles. But how much is he worth? What is he worth to what team? You know?
I think it would be smart for Jamal Charles to wait until Adrian Peterson gets signed somewhere, because Jamal Charles is still an interesting factor. I would love to have him on my team. If he's going to be healthy, yeah, I'm not going to have him as my starting running back, as my lead running back, but
makes sense.
To have him as a 2 or 3 for scenario type plays, like, yeah, absolutely, I would love to have him on there. But that's also, it brings me back to Adrian Peterson, where do you honestly believe that this 31-year-old running back is going to be one of the best running backs in the league again? I don't think it's going to happen.
I would be surprised by that, honestly. I mean, Adrian Peterson, I think, is going to have a better end of his career than Jamal Charles is, honestly. But, I mean, yeah, Jamal Charles is really that dual-purpose running back. I mean, you mentioned it to me even a couple of days ago about LaShawn McCoy maybe not be coming back with the Bills as well, too. I mean, that's a player in today's game. You want a player that can run the ball 15, 20 times a game, and they can also catch 10 to 15 passes out of the backfield as well, too. You want that dual-purpose, almost that James White for New England. I mean, that I always go back to Brian Westbrook with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I mean, even LaShawn McCoy, of course, but you know, you want that player that is going to do so much more for you instead of just being your workhorse.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of teams are going to that two running back consistent system as well.
It's just, I mean, it's a passing league. It's not, you can't win championships with a phenomenal running back. Minnesota's found that out the hard way over the last 10 years, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and they've had hardly a phenomenal running back or a phenomenal passing game.
Yes.
Because of injuries and just the way things have kind of fallen, honestly.
Now, I honestly, I really do believe that when somebody will sign Jamal Charles, somebody will sign Adrian Peterson,
100%.
and that organization, whoever it is going to be thrilled to have them. But what you're doing is you're buying a used car. So you're buying a used Ferrari. It's a 1975 Ferrari, but you're still getting a Ferrari. It may still run well.
But is it the name? Are you buying the name?
But you're buying the name.
Yeah.
You're buying the name. Now, you can get a guy who, like Mike Gillislee, for example, from Buffalo, who will play just as well as Jamal Charles.
True.
I'm not saying that he's a better running back overall, but at this point in their career, I don't think you're buying a, you know, you're not buying the brand new Corvette that you want off the lot. So,
is there a brand new Corvette available?
I don't have one. It's not mine.
I certainly don't have that either, that's for sure. All right, so free agency as a whole, of course, March 9th is going to be the big day for a lot of that stuff. The NFL Combine is also starting to kick off. Started yesterday, and now we've continued to start to move forward as well with it. At least for us local, TJ Watt has been a name that we've heard, at least playing for the Wisconsin Badgers. We've heard he might be going to the Packers as well, too, more of that Clay Matthews style player. But this draft apparently is very, very defensive heavy, very tight end heavy as well, too, which is kind of funny because every NFL team is different when it comes to choosing a tight end and utilizing them. But is there any particular things that you're really looking forward to about this scouting combine at all, Tanner?
The scouting combine, it really isn't going to tell you too much that you don't already know or can't find out from film, from college. I think it's more of it's just a showcase, essentially, is what it is. And, I mean, you can pick and choose little things, like if a guy's running a 4.4 but he can't catch the ball, how valuable is that 4.4?
You're right.
So what I get from the combine is, and you can look at utility players and whatever, but the quarterbacks are always interesting to me from the combine because that's when you really see how incredible some of their traits are.
Yes.
And that's really, I think, where you define who's going to go where in the draft and how valuable they may be moving forward into the NFL.
Well, I mean, the big names that you're obviously hearing is Deshaun Watson, of course, from Clemson, the UNC quarterback as well, too, whose last name escapes me because it's so random. But you know, I mean, people always talk about the big ones. It's like, who's going to be the first quarterback drafted? Because so many teams build around quarterbacks. I mean, when the Chiefs drafted Eric Fisher first overall a couple years ago in the NFL draft, people were like, "Real an offensive lineman?" Like, but you have to pick what you need. The Chiefs didn't need a quarterback. The Chiefs didn't need a running back. The Chiefs didn't need a wide receiver at that point. They needed offensive line help. And, of course, Eric Fisher has gone on to have a great career so far. So every team is different when you really boil it down. Figuring out some of these players. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's going to be a big player this year, too. I've seen even drafts that he might go to the Packers, which would be kind of cool, but I don't know where he would go, honestly, on the team. But, you know, there's marquee players available that can really help bolster a lot of teams, I feel like.
There always is, and I think going into the combine, the teams that are there and the scouts that are there, they already know the players that they want to draft. It's just a matter of figuring out how valuable are they and how much can we gain by drafting them in this position. Maybe do we need to trade up to get them? That's basically for the organization to decide where they are, where they stand with their prospects. I mean, they've had the the last couple months, going into it, some teams, a couple months, to look at these players, especially through the bowl games and everything. So now what's interesting to me, and we were talking about the quarterbacks, that for some reason the quarterback position is so exciting to look at from the college level through the NFL. And
everybody loves it.
Everybody loves the quarterback. And
you can't win a game without a quarterback.
That's what I was going to say. You can't win a championship without a top-tier quarterback. So when the draft comes around and the combine comes around, it's fun to look at the quarterbacks and see what they have to offer.
Somewhere Trent Dilfer is laughing at us.
Exactly.
Like, I've got a ring, boys.
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens. You also had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed on your defense, so
yes.
calm down.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, I mean, the quarterback position is probably the most overdrafted position. There's guys who go in the first round who have fifth round talent,
Mm-hmm.
And then
Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, and then you'll get guys like Tom Brady and Russell Wilson who get drafted in the later rounds who are just kind of like a surprise. Now, I think that is where teams will really get their worth, is looking into the later rounds and really finding those hidden gems. But the quarterbacks that are in this draft, they're interesting to watch. Deshaun Watson, I think, is obviously the most jaw-dropping. Anytime you hear a two-time Heisman finalist, he doesn't have the Heisman Trophy, but
still got to be pretty darn good, though.
To go back-to-back and be a finalist 2 years in a row and win a national championship, I mean, he's going to get drafted, and it's going to be really exciting to watch his career grow moving forward.
I completely agree with you, Aaron. All right, let's transition now to NHL Trade Deadline Day. I'm not as big of a hockey fan. I enjoy going to games, but I don't follow the league as religiously as you and other people that love hockey, of course.
There are people out there that like hockey, believe me.
I know. I'm good friends with a lot of people that love hockey. Like I said, I enjoy going to hockey games. It's kind of how my dad and his fiance are as well, too. They love going to hockey games, but they'll go to Blackhawk games every once in a while because they live here in the Milwaukee area. But hockey is so hard. I feel like as a sports world, it's so hard to be a diehard of multiple leagues. You're either a diehard of the NFL, a diehard of the NBA. I'm just kidding. You're a diehard of Major League Baseball. You're a diehard of the NHL. But it's so hard to be dual. Like I somehow work out my soccer fandom with being an NFL fan, an MLS fan, and an NWSL fan. Somehow I manage that.
Soccer's tough because there's so many different leagues
and
there's so many teams you could follow.
It is, but when you talk about how different hockey is from football and from baseball and basketball, like trying to figure all that out and really hone in on it, I think it's so hard to do. And I think that's kind of why hockey, in my mind at least, has been kind of tossed to the back burner in terms of national media as well, too. Because they always talk about the big four.
It's always been
hockey is never number 3 or 2. It's always number 4.
It's true. And it really is regionalized, which I think is why
100%.
It doesn't get the national media that I think it deserves, because it's such a fast-paced game. It's so exciting to watch. I mean, it's the only time in any sport where it's okay to fight somebody, and there's like unwritten rules, and everybody just kind of watches you beat the heck out of the guy. So, but when it comes to the deadline here, this is an interesting time of year because there's still like a quarter of the season left, and like any deadline, you'll get some blockbuster trades, but we're just a few hours away from the deadline. It's going to be at 3 o'clock Eastern, so we're just a couple hours away. But there's when you approach the deadline as a team, you're either a buyer or a seller, and you can't really be in between. You're either
that's
going
how it's supposed to work, isn't it, though? You're either a buyer or a seller.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, for teams that are on the bubble, I think it's really hard to make that decision and say, hey, we have a quarter of a season to try and get into the playoffs, but who are we kidding? Like, if we do get in the playoffs, if we even get there,
it might not go well.
Yeah, it's not going to go well. So you have to make that decision, and it's almost like breaking up with somebody or giving up that old toy that you had or car or whatever. Sometimes you have to say, we're not good enough. We're gonna play out.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, it's not you, it's me. We're gonna go into the off season knowing that we have the best draft pick possible. True. Not that they're trying to lose. Tanking isn't really a thing anymore. They've kind of prevented against that. But for the buyers, it's really interesting because you're trying to play for a championship.
You're right.
So
you're right. And I just want to reference, too, people are making some good points on Facebook. Aaron says hockey is fun. It's like boxing plus soccer plus football plus figure skating all thrown into one. That makes a whole lot of sense, honestly. And then Alexander says, I just think you just don't like hockey. No sweat, though.
No sweat, though.
It's true, though. I mean, Alexander, if you're watching, I'm going to look into the camera and tell you this. I don't mind hockey. I just don't like to follow the league. Hockey is an event that you go to. It is not something that I personally am passionate about. I think baseball is the most ridiculous, stupid sport that we can play in this modern age, but it's an event. You go to the stadium, you drink with your friends, you sit in the outfield, and you take action in what's going on. So I don't hate hockey. I just don't follow the league, or leagues, as it were.
That was intense.
Just wanted to get that out there for Alexander.
It was like very confrontational.
Just wanted to make that clear.
One of our fans. That's great.
So the deadline, Chad.
So the deadline, we're a few hours away. There hasn't been anything blockbuster-esque as of late.
True.
That usually happens within minutes of the deadline for some reason.
So many people live for that, though, too.
I love it. I'm a big Sabres fan, and I don't know if I'm expecting anything of the blockbuster scale
13th
today.
right now in the East.
But we're kind of on that bubble. When I was referencing bubble teams, I would love to see the Sabres push and make it into the playoffs. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. We win a game, then we lose a game, win a game, lose a game.
Yeah.
It's at that point where we're just going to have to say, hey, this was not the year we wanted.
True.
But we also weren't expecting to win I almost said the Super Bowl. The Sabres are going to win the Super Bowl.
Maybe that's been your
the only way
problem.
Buffalo's going to get a championship.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills and the Sabres switch players.
Exactly. Now, the teams that I'm looking at as buyers are going to be Washington, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. Three of the greats. And Pittsburgh's going to try and be the first team since 1997-98 to go back-to-back championships. Chicago just got Johnny Oduya back, so we'll see how that works out. I'm sure he's glad to be back in Chicago with his boys, while Sharp is still down in Dallas. There's a couple other things going on, nothing too crazy. Steve Ott is going to Montreal from Detroit. He's a nice, gritty player. It'll be good for them to kind of have some more leadership presence and another guy that can, duke it out with someone if he beats up on your little guy. So
true, yeah. What do you when you look at the conferences as a whole? And I don't want to get too much into hockey playoff talk yet right now, but I mean, is it safe to make the argument that the Western Conference the Western Central is the most difficult conference to play in most division? You've got the Wild, the Blackhawks, the Predators, the Blues, the Jets, the Stars, and the Avalanche. Yeah, I could be wrong. I could be totally off kilter on this one. People are probably making fun of me right now for being like, you don't know anything about hockey. You don't even watch it. I know Colorado's the worst team in the league. They got 37 points. I totally get that. But like, those at least 4 or 5 teams are some of the best in the league.
They are, and I think it's safe to say that the West is the strongest conference between the East and the West. And going down to divisions,
I feel like that's the case for all sports conferences. The Western Conference or the AFC, that they're always.
So what's going on
better.
In the East? What's going on the East side?
Too
of
much
the
binge
States?
drinking.
Too much binge drinking.
Bostonians
shouldn't be watching our show then.
Yeah, exactly.
The West in the NHL has always consistently been better, and
true.
Not that the East isn't a good conference. There's only 2 conferences, so but the balance of power has tilted slightly to the West.
True.
For years, but yeah, no, no matter what, whoever does make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, it's going to be a Game 7 run or something like that. So I would love to see Pittsburgh go back. I think it would be fun to watch Sidney Crosby win another championship. Do I necessarily like Sidney Crosby?
Is he the GOAT?
He's
not.
He had potential, but he ran into some major injuries in the middle of his career. But he's essentially the Tom Brady, or he was at one point the Tom Brady of the NHL, and nobody liked him, almost like the LeBron James of sorts. So he was supposed to be the next Wayne Gretzky, and some major injuries kind of held him away from that. But he's still definitely the best player in the NHL at the moment.
Right. And I have to go back to Alexander because he commented again here on Facebook. If you're listening in or watching, make sure you go to Brew Sports and like our page and drop comments. Alexander said that he respected my comments and he agrees with me, and he thanks me very much for that. Ha ha ha. So Alexander, I hope we can be friends because obviously you seem like a cool guy, and I have nothing against hockey. I respect hockey because I enjoy ice skating, but I can't imagine trying to skate and hit and do all of that stuff either. It's just not a pretty sight. So mucho respect to anybody that loves hockey and is diehard. Everybody has passions. People think I'm funny or stupid because I like soccer.
Let me know who they are when you see them. I don't know.
The diehard hockey fans?
No, they're funny and stupid.
Oh, I'm still looking on a daily basis, basically.
No, I was going to say, I really think, you like soccer. I like hockey, and I like soccer, but I don't follow it as much as you do. And soccer, we just create $1 million idea.
I'm pretty sure no. Somebody posted a video, I feel like, a couple months ago, people skating on an ice rink, kicking a soccer ball.
Yes.
And they played it in some country. I forget where it was. Somewhere in Europe, basically. The Europeans are always ahead of the curve.
They are, aren't they? They really are.
They really are. All right, Tanner. We gotta finish up the show here, but we gotta play a game that we like to call Start, Sit, Cut.
Yes.
Basically, where we offer 3 different players or coaches or whatnot in the sports world. You have to start one, cut one, and bench one, basically. So you get to keep that benched one, but you're not ultimately starting them. Free agency is a big topic right now in the NFL. There's at least 6 players. One of the 6 we're going to talk about is already locked up to be with a team, but it still begs a good question as a whole. So we'll start with the 3 of the more notable running backs in the NFL right now.
Okay.
Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles, and Eddie Lacy. You have to start one, cut one.
Is it pre or post
Right now.
heavy Eddie Lacy?
Right now.
Okay, so he's still going to McDonald's.
Probably
3 or 4 days a week.
This isn't Alabama Roll Tide.
No, I love Eddie Lacy. I'm not trying to hate on Eddie
I
at
get
all.
it.
He's great.
He's a big guy.
He's
got a lot to love.
so fun to watch, and he's a funny guy. But no, so start, sit, cut. I got AP, Jamal Charles, and Eddie Lacy.
Yep.
I have to start Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
I've always loved Adrian Peterson. I think he brings the most to the table, and like we were talking about earlier, he is a step ahead of Jamal Charles still at this point in his career. It would be tough if I had to decide between Eddie Lacy and Jamal Charles. Now, I want to sit Jamal Charles. I want him on my bench, but Jamal Charles and Adrian Peterson are too close of a style for running back, and I really think that Eddie Lacy, having him on those short downs, could be a nice compliment to Adrian Peterson. So I'm going to sit Eddie Lacy. I'm going to start Adrian Peterson. And unfortunately, Jamal Charles, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you, but I will still draft you for my fantasy team in the 5th round.
If you're still available.
If you're still available.
Well, I was hoping you were going to flip-flop Jamal and Eddie because you did exactly what I was going to do. I would start AP.
Sorry.
Jamal Charles, I don't really like Eddie Lacy. I really don't, but I think he's in... You're playing with damaged goods, as you mentioned. You're playing with used cars. It's like, do you want the 2008 used car? Do you want the 2002 used car? Do you want the 2006 used car? Like, they all have been around the block.
Or do they talk you into a lease?
Yes, or do you go and lease a brand new rookie?
A brand new Eddie Lacy.
Yes, exactly. I would be more than happy with a brand new college fresh Eddie Lacy. That would be a tremendous thing for the Packers. But Jamal gets cut, Eddie sits, and AP is my starter until proven otherwise.
Okay.
If Le'Veon Bell was in this conversation, I'd have had a harder time, honestly.
Yes, but
but he's not, thankfully.
Well, these 3 players were relevant for the free agency. So
exactly. All right, and then our other 3 going to the quarterback side of things. You've got Kirk Cousins, Tony Romo, Jay Cutler. Some people might say, well, obviously you just cut all 3 and go from there, but you can't. That's not how the game works.
5 quarterbacks. Do I have to answer? No.
You do. You want me to go first? It's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go first.
I went first last time.
I'm going to, despite what people might think, I'm going to cut Tony Romo. I'm going to keep Jay Cutler.
Really?
I'm going to sit him, though. And then I'm going to start Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
Jay Cutler is not a bad quarterback. One of my friends...
You're a Packers fan. What do you mean?
He's not a bad quarterback because, of course, he throws the ball to the other team, of course. But when you really break it down, and I've had friends of mine that write for Bleacher Report and other places that have explained this to me. They said, Jay Cutler is not a bad quarterback. They're like, yes, he has made some poor decisions, but overall, his mechanics, his statistics, he's not bad. He's really not. And I believe in Jay Cutler. If he's in the right system and he doesn't look like he smoked, a lot before he went on the field, like I get that. But Jay Cutler is a second-string quarterback in my lineup of 3. Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback of those 3. Romo is done. He's basically the equivalent of trying to play with dry ice in a pool of water. He just melts in your hands and he's gone.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
It's tough.
So Kirk Cousins, I start. I sit Jay Cutler, and I cut Tony Romo.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
That's fine.
I'm gonna have to
I'd be mad if you agreed with me.
What's funny is at one point or another, all 3 of these quarterbacks were in talks to be a Bill in the last couple of years.
Aren't they always, though?
Yeah, every quarterback in the league has been talked about in some way or another. But no, I am absolutely going to have to cut the Cutler.
Cut the Cutler.
And I'll spend his money on some new cutlery.
Are you done?
It had to have at least one bad joke today, right?
You get one.
I'm cutting Cutler.
Okay.
I'm going to start Tony Romo because of his experience, But he's going to have to stay healthy. Now,
He's
if
so
that, is that
fragile,
going to happen?
though. I feel like if you
that's
breathe
why
on
you
him,
sit,
he breaks
That's why you
up.
sit Cousins. You know, you have a guy like
But
Cousins on your bench.
why are you
I don't
banking
need-
so much on your second-string quarterback?
I don't need Cousins coming out of the locker room, going into a press conference, just screaming at the media.
You like that?
You like that?
Woo!
So
No,
I'm
don't do
gonna.
that.
I would start Tony Romo.
Okay.
I really think you're going to need the tools around him to be successful.
True.
And when he does get injured,
He will.
Kirk Cousins is right there, and he'll be hungry, and he'll want to get out there, and then he'll probably earn the role, just like Dak Prescott.
Anyway, people responded on Facebook. We should talk about that briefly. Alexander, my new best friend here, says start AP, bench Charles, cut Lacey. Jimmy says start Lacey. Why? Sit Charles, cut AP. I have my reasons. Okay, Jimmy. We'll talk to Jimmy, I guess. Aaron says cut Charles, sit Lacey, start AP, and then Aaron also said cut Cutler, start Romo, sit Cousins. So you and your boy Aaron are on the same.
I can get behind
wavelength.
that. Yeah.
All right, Tanner. Closing thoughts as we finish up our halftime broadcast.
There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming up here in the next week or so. So
Yeah.
we'll have plenty to talk about next week. So definitely tune in to our show. Again, we are 5 days a week from 11 to 12 Central Time for all of our friends on the East and West Coast. It is a pleasure to be a part of this broadcast with you, the flagship Bruce Sports Network station. I am Tanner Burke, and my good friend here. It's an honor.
I appreciate it, Tanner. All right, he is Tanner. I'm Baxter. 11 to 12. We'll be back again tomorrow. Some NFL talk, some other craziness going on as well, too. This has been Halftime on Bruce Sports. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.